Whoo! Whoo! Alright. You guys know what it is already by this point. I don't give a shit.
I don't give a fuck about YouTube.
I don't make a video unless I have something that I want to share, something interesting. I'm not just gonna fucking make beats on camera. Yeah, I'd just rather make music without a camera. But you know by now that if I drop a video,
oh shit, Mr. Fix dropped, oh fuck,
it's gonna be something interesting. So today I'm gonna show you something that I just figured out. It's maybe the missing piece of Dawless production in the cassette realm, in the Memphis funk realm. I think this is gonna help you guys out. I hope it does, and I hope that you master it in a way that I haven't yet, because yeah, the possibilities for this are kind of endless. So a little background first. Let's talk a little bit about the history of MIDI. So there was a time when there were drum machines and synths and shit, but there was not MIDI. It would be, you know, just up to you to kind of play it on fucking rhythm. If you've tried making beats without MIDI synchronization, you probably are aware that that can sound shitty. So the first thing that people came up with to kind of fix this was tape sync. This is kind of goes back to like reel recording, like reel to reel, you know, and shit like that in a studio where you would want multiple reel decks with like 16 tracks on each to sync up together. So, you know, you'd be sending these tones that would tell the machines like this is time to start. Somewhere in there somebody figured out that you could use that for drum triggers. That's what the first drum machines were kind of designed for. And yeah, that's the same shit that like fucking metal drummers do, you know, with the
Whatever, every fucking sound sounds the same.
That was like an early 80s thing. You might have something like a drum machine with a tape sync or like individual tape inputs. A lot of the old Roland ones had that instead of MIDI. So you would run your drum mic for whatever, your snare, into, you know, the snare sound. And then when you make that noise, it tells that sound to fire. It gets that audio signal as information and it says, I make a sound here. So that's how you did like a lot of early synth drums, but also how a lot of early dance music was made, because, you know, people might have like a tone generator, it makes just a pulse. You run that sound into your kick, you know, and that's how you get the 4 on the floor, the do or whatever. I've seen some, DJ Speedsick uses a drum machine that only has tape sync, so I know that he's doing something like that if it's syncing up with other gear. And so if you have like random off-brand 80s, especially like towards the late 80s, you're gonna see this kind of stuff where it's got MIDI and the tape sync. Something that was kind of created when these machines were kind of working on their own was, hey, why don't we figure out a way to send information to a channel on the tape and then play that back and tell the machine what to do. So really, you know, just a precursor to MIDI. It's not as perfect, but what that means is that and I've seen like one video on YouTube where somebody showed how to do this, but and then all the information I could find is always with these like smart sync boxes. There's like a Tascam smart sync, and you record the tone to your Tascam tape deck, and then you play it back into the smart sync, and it syncs up your gear. Yeah, those things are cool. They're fucking really hard to find, and they're kind of expensive if you can find them. But what that video and the information did not show is that I have some old gear. I noticed some of it has like a tape sync in, tape sync out, and so I figured out that a few of these things just kind of cut out the middleman, and they allowed you to write the tape sync track from their gear, from the drum machine, then play it back into the drum machine and sync stuff up with it. Now, this might sound like just a lot of fucking nonsense, but once we get into it, it's fucking... come on guys, solve the crime. Do it a little faster, please. Essentially what that means is that once you put this signal onto tape, so say you're working with one of the Tascam 4 tracks or whatever, as long as you don't erase that track, or you know you're not bouncing that track when you're making room for other stuff, as long as you keep that track, you can play it back into whatever gear has this tape in. Set the sync, you know, instead of setting it to MIDI or internal, you would set it to tape. You can essentially go back and multitrack in sync because it will try to adjust itself to that tape speed. You know, that's what it was kind of designed for, so that it can account for those minor fluctuations in tape speed. Unfortunately, the tape decks I have a 4-track and then I have a Tascam 8-track. They both have issues with speed that kind of fucked it up. I can't quite sync it up like perfectly, but you can hear how the machines are kind of trying to adjust still to that like tape speed fluctuation. Basically, Too Long didn't read with this signal on a tape. Assuming you guys have the same tape decks, and assuming you have a tape deck that is, you know, better than mine and can kind of keep a constant speed, you guys can like do tape trades through the mail, do collabs through the mail, send each other tapes. As long as you have the same deck, you can run that signal into your shit, and whatever your buddy recorded, you know, it'll sync right up to it. So you're not limited to stems and like, you know, collaborations within the DAW. That's what I thought was cool about it, but also just that you can like go back and multi-track on a 4-track. That was the one thing I could not figure out how to do. All my beats are pretty much composed live if I'm running them to tape, and I can't, unless I'm recording them to the 8-track or whatever, I can't go back and fix stuff, and I can't go back and add stuff and have it be perfectly synced up. But now, you know, in theory, that is what this does. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through it with the technology that I have. Let's do this. Let's show it. Okay, so looking at my little studio setup for the day here, we are using the Alesis HR16. This is one of 2 machines I have that can do this. The other one is this Roland R5 over here. So if you got something from the late 80s, that is where you're going to find this. And I'll put a list on the screen of other common items that have this capability. So we're gonna go around here to the back real quick. Okay, and what you could see here is that this machine is one kind of like the DR660, where it's got multiple outputs. This has 2 stereo outputs, which is really cool. These machines were actually really sick for the time, and if the sounds were just like slightly better, I would use this all the time. Maybe someday I'll be able to track down the HR16B, which has more like electronic kind of sounds. But the important part down here is that you see these little, and it's an aux cable. That's all you need, basically, an aux cable and then one of the headphone adapters that make it a 1/4 inch, so you could see it's going in there. So yeah, I've got the tape out is what I'm using, because we have to print the signal first. So you could see I've got it just running into track 1, and yeah, you just record it like audio, and you print the signal, you know, as much as you want, and then as long as that signal is going, it will be telling machines what to do. So I've just got kind of a little beat here that I made, and you're not going to hear the tape signal because I have that muted. It sounds like a fucking like a fax machine or like internet dial-up. It's an obnoxious sound. But so here's what I've got so far. And I'm just doing a simple little beat. Basically, I've got some drums on the 660 panned hard left, and then I've got some bass panned hard right, just so that I can, you know, use just I'm not doing stereo. That way I have control of the bass and control of the drums when I, you know, if I go back and mix this track. And then this is being MIDI synced by the HR16. As long as you have a machine that takes tape sync in, you can daisy chain that signal, and as long as you're doing like MIDI instead of internal, you could still do that synchronization. And that is that's like how I can do the multi-tracking. So like, you know, I could write something on, say, like this synth, and as long as it's being started by this machine, it should be like right in line with it rhythmically. So I'm not going to actually record that little section of the beat right now. I'm going to mute all of those channels. I'm just going to print this signal this time. I don't want to actually record the audio because I want to show you how it works. So basically, we just play. You just play on this machine, you know, whatever, a pattern, as long as you have the tempo selected. And in this case, I think I'm 145, because you can't go back and change the tempo. So this is just basically printing a tempo track so that your machines sync up. So now we are recording on this track 1 here. See how mine is weird. This is a weird 4-track. It's set to record, and then bouncing is really easy because you just send it to send, and then whatever track you're recording on will get those. Yeah, if you could find one of these, I don't know, I recommend it. It is a fucking heavy-duty professional 4-track recorder. Now that it's recording, we're going to play. And as you could see, it's getting audio there now. And you want to have it cranked up, not so high it's like peaking constantly, but I've got it kind of right at 0 there. Because if the machine can't hear it, if it's like too quiet, then it won't get that constant tempo information. So I'm just going to print this for a few minutes here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to play this now just to show you what this sounds like, so you can kind of know if you're doing it right, then you'll hear this. Yeah, pretty cool sound. Okay, so now the other thing is it helps if you have a machine that has individual outs, which a lot of the more popular Tascams do, and this does as well, because otherwise, if you can't send just that individual track to your gear, then it's not going to work. So now we just have to send that output of that track. We need to send it back into the tape in of this machine, and then we need to go up here to MIDI utility, and basically on this one it has a clock source, and then you just want to go over until it's tape sync in. So you can see how that looks there. It's going to be similar on other machines. It's just wherever you change the synchronization, you want to hit that. Okay, so what I got hooked up here is, and this, it helps to have a lot of weird ass little cables, which I have from years of doing this shit. Now, as you can see, I've switched to tape sync in, and this is going back here. Those are the individual outs. And that first one there is track 1. So track 1 just going right back into here, feeding that information in. And some machines, the R5 I have, you need to hit play, and then it won't actually play. But once it gets that signal, it'll start. This one, it does not seem to matter. I just leave it like this, and as long as it's tape sync, then it will work. So now you'll be able to hear the audio, and with any luck, once it gets this signal, it should just start playing, and you won't hear that signal ever again. And see, even if you hit stop on the machine like I just did, it will keep going. And so that is actually how I've been able to work around the kind of synchronization issues with my tape speed here, is that it will keep going, so I can just kind of refire the pattern and it'll line itself back up. And I found that worked pretty well. But with a good tape recorder, this is going to be mostly flawless. You don't need a million MIDI cables, and you don't need to record stuff live. You can kind of, it's hard for me doing this kind of recording to kind of, like, if I have an idea, I have to finish it. I can't really go back and mess with it later, except for some basic mixing. So this means I could put something down and potentially just run that signal back in later and just be able to record right to it. So now I am actually going to record this to tape, and you'll hear how it keeps going, and then as soon as that signal stops, it's just going to stop. It's also, there's just a lot of cool things you can do with this. If you're not so crazy with the recording that you can hit all these buttons and get everything going to do like punch-ins or whatever, it's a good way to do that. If you record a beat and you want to go back and add a part, you could probably punch in and not have it be super noticeable. There wouldn't be a gap because that signal would be going the whole time. Anyways, just some ideas there, but yeah, so now we're going to record it to tape. So you see how as soon as I turn down that fader with the tape signal, with the sync signal, it stops. And as you could hear there, all types of speed fluctuation issues. That's what I meant. This tape deck is old. It's not perfect. Same thing was happening with my other one. But if you have a nice tape deck this will work a lot more smoothly. So now you should be able to just hear what I recorded there. And since I have it all going into the mixing board, that's the percussion. That's coming off the Alesis. There's the drums off the 660. And there's that vibra slap and the bass. I think I forgot to pan the vibra slap. I meant to have it on the drums, but so yeah, it sounds kind of shitty, but it's there. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to act like that bass track, which was 4. We're going to act like that was not there. So I'm going to record over that bass track right there, and it's going to be just these drums. So we're going to get rid of that bass track in order to bounce these tracks here. And so I'm not going to explain bouncing signals on a 4-track. There's plenty of videos about that, and it's different for every machine, but this is how I do it with mine. I have these set to send, this one to record, and so now if I record, it's just going to send those to this one. I kind of fucked up with the tracks, but so what I ended up doing was erasing the percussion from the HR16, but that might actually work better. So now this is going to be those things coming off of here. Okay, you get the idea. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to try to re-record that percussion onto track 1 here. So now I'm just running the Alesis back into here. It's just that percussion part I played you at first, but we're going to re-record it, except we're going to use the tape sync to multitrack. So got to have this turned back up so it's going into the machine, and now we should be able to at least get it going with the signal. So you hear how it's getting off rhythm because it's just, my tape player is too shitty. It's just, it's an imperfect method, but under the right circumstances, you can do that. And you hear how it was trying to compensate for those fluctuations. We'll give it another chance here and see if we can get it going a little better. And I'll show you how I kind of keep it on rhythm. Because as soon as you hit play, it's going to refire the pattern, and it's going to keep getting that signal. So it's starting to get up. I'm just going to refire it on B. So yeah, it's imperfect, but it does work, which is the important part. The final thing I'm going to show you, which is kind of an afterthought, but I think that there's also potential for this to be really cool, because I think this is going to sound smoother than actually if you were to like slow down a track with MIDI synchronization. If you wanted to do like actual tempo shifts in a beat. Just arming all these tracks again, and we're just going to use the tape sync to start it like I did last time. But watch this. So how about that? You can adjust the tempo with the tape speed here. So anyways, I hope that is helpful, useful to you guys. I hope it helps you to make even crazier beats, try even, more creative production methods, and maybe get some collabs going in a way that wasn't possible before. But yeah, I'll see you when I see you. I'll catch you in the next video. Whenever the fuck that is. If you guys really want to support what I do, I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. I just make music. So I've got a new tape. Probably it's going to be out by the time this video drops. It's called Gangsta Music. Mostly made on hardware. I do everything, all the vocals, all the music. If you want to fuck with me, do that. Otherwise, I'll see you when I see you.